Welcome students, this is the 32nd class on digital land surveying and mapping. Today in this class I am going to discuss on some basics for mapping. So actually what happens, before we prepare the map or during the preparation of the map, we need to concentrate on some basic points to produce the map of desired quality. So, and the basic considerations which we like to or we need to consider during or before preparation of the map are these. Some of these are like these: specifications. We should first have the specifications which our map has to satisfy. So this is required before actually we start surveying work. So before we start the surveying work, we need to know what specification our map is going to satisfy, and based on that actually whole of surveying work will depend, and methodology depend, instruments selection will be depend, and then we will get the data, and once we get the data we need to test those data to see whether it is meeting the requirements of specifications or not. Once it satisfies the need for measurement specification, then we go for preparation of map, and also after preparing the map we should go for the testing of the prepared map as per the specification whether the map is satisfied or not. So specification for map we should know and we should strictly follow that. So I will talk more on it. Next point is that control network. Actually from the name itself we can understand that we need to have some control point all throughout our survey work, as well as control points are required during the preparation of the map or to prepare in the map to depict different objects or features, planimetric as well as our height like contours. So I will talk on control network and mapping details. So the sole purpose of mapping is to provide the different types of objects or features or some specific type of need, and those details we have to know really how to collect and how to what are those and how to represent that thing. So I will talk under mapping details. Then after we have all these things we should go for some design elements of the map. So that I will discuss under the map design. Once the design is done, then we should really actually we should lay out how we will like to have our map as per the page, and for that we have to need do some considerations that we will discuss. I will discuss under map layout. Now once the map is prepared or during the preparation of the map or sometimes before we prepare the map, some elements are to be embossed in the map, and those elements we need to know what are those elements, and that we have to I will discuss on it. And finally before and after and during map preparation we need to know what are the different types of error that may arise or that arises, and what are the different type of mistakes we do, and that I will discuss on this under this head errors and mistakes in mapping. Now let me start with the specification. Now why we need specification for map? As we need the specification for all engineering product, also map is a engineering product, it is a product of engineering surveying. So map should also have some specification, because through the specification only we will be able to maintain the standard really what we are looking for. Another thing is that the purpose of specification for a map is that the user will have some basic quality of about the protect the interest of the consumer or the user of the map. So, with this background, specifications are required for a map, and actually the specification of a map is defined through some accuracy parameters or accuracy measures. Now, the accuracy measures which is used for our map is the 90% confidence level. Now, we know that in map we do have the coordinates of the point, we have the distance between points and the height of the points. These are the basic parameters, really points, ground distance, elevations, these are the basic elements which we will try to represent in a map, and so we should make a accuracy measure on these elements, and that accuracy measure is that it should be have the 90% confidence level. Already I have discussed about this confidence level and accuracy in our previous classes. So, those concepts we have to borrow and to apply to find out the accuracy of the map elements, which are the coordinates of points, ground distance, elevations. Now, to apply the 90% confidence level, what we need to do? We have to take a set of at least 20 well defined points or ground distance or elevations, and for those points or lines or elevations we must have the same parameters measure using some instruments which having higher accuracy than the instruments or measurement methods we have adopted in finding out those parameters for this particular survey. And then from the existing value of the parameters which has been derived from some better accuracy or better method of measurement, we have to find out the root mean square error. So, already we had discussed what is root mean square error in our previous class. So, the root mean square errors get computed and converted to 90% confidence level, and then we should see whether the those 20 or more than 20 samples are satisfying the criteria of our accuracy or not. Now, if it is not, then we have to go for necessary corrective measures like carrying out the surveying again to get the measurements to do the thing all throughout. Otherwise, if it is satisfied, then we will be able to write, we have to give a comment on the map that okay, this map satisfied the 95% level having this much of accuracy. So, that type of note we should keep in at the end of the table in a map. So, the map should contain a statement with the level of pass both for horizontal and vertical accuracy in its legend box. So, legend box should have another statement which shows the level of pass. Now, all this is due to whatever I had discussed due to planimetric position, and also we know that in case of our map there is another important parameter which represents the height, that means, and that is by through contours, and we should test and we should find that at least 90% of the contour should be correct within half of the specified contour interval. So, this is also important that 90% of the contours that is available within a map should be correct within half of the specified contour interval. So, when I had discussed about the contours, I have already discussed that the half of the contour interval is considered to be the standard deviation or standard error of the contours. So, we may allow up to that error for 90% of the contours. So, this is what is about the specification for mapping. The next criteria which is important, which are the for mapping, is the control network. So, as you know, control network are the network of points whose position is already being defined, and that can be used as the base for all other measurements or all other work. Now there may be two types of control points, one is called horizontal control point, another is called vertical control point. Control points may be horizontal control points or vertical control points. Vertical control points, or and nowadays one more widely available, that is the 3D control points, which is which can be considered as both horizontal and vertical control points. Now the horizontal control points are for planimetric positioning, planimetric work, like our planimetric coordinates xy, or it may be the horizontal distance, and vertical control point is for height. And when we have the 3D control point, these control points may be used both for planimetric positioning as well as height. Now these control points are very important in surveying, already we have learned it. Also it is very important for mapping purpose, because whole of the mapping starts from these control points, and whenever we go for the mapping work, we do first we do first draw the control points with the and we prepare the base map on control point with control points, and on those base map actually whole of the other work of mapping continues. So control points are very important, and that has to be very accurately noted down in the map. And also control points are used for our drawing the contours. Vertical control points are used for contours. So contours. Next, the point which is important about the details, mapping details, actually on the surface of the earth, in the last class already we have told that there are hundreds of objects available, and there are so many objects are available that it is not possible, also it is not advisable to take care of each and every object that is present on the surface of the earth. Neither it is possible, because earth is a very big and our map is a very small. So all the element that is available in a big earth surface cannot be accommodated in a small map. So always we need to know what are the objects to be picked up and to be represented in the map, and already we had learned in the last class that we have to apply the method of generalization to identify which are the objects to be taken for our mapping purpose and which are to be left out. So most of the time in case of civil engineering projects or in civil engineering works or engineering topographic map, we should have these minimum objects to be noted down, like permanent building or structures, temporary or mobile building, boundary of objects like our boundary of our houses, or there may be some boundary of some area or some built up area or something like that, and street furnitures. Then there may be different type of trees or wooded areas or vegetation, those has to be marked in our map. Now then private ground or gardens, if it is available, that has to be noted down in our map. Then water features, that means there may be pond, there may be river, there may be other drainage system. So all those things has to be noted down. Then the earthwork Earthwork is another important, that means sometimes somewhere the earth may be cut down, or sometimes there may be mesh of earth. So, earthing is to be noted down. Industrial features, so industry may come up somewhere, and the extent of industry, the area of the industry, the boundary of the industry, the type of industry, like that so many important features or parameters will come up along with the industry and its growth. So, those things we have to note down. Roadway, railway, canals, like those linear objects which are of very important for engineering works, as an engineering works has to be noted down. And over and above, every project or every surveying will have some objective. Depending on the objective, we will be need to know what are the objects which are important for that particular project, and according to that we have to pick up all those important objects in our map. Like if we want to study the groundwater resource, so in that case we will be need to invariably have the water bodies. Along with that, which is mentioned here, along with that we have to go for all the location of the hand pumps, or there may be wells, then there may be any water flow. So, all those important informations we have to pick up and we have to represent in the map. Similar to that, every surveying work will be for some particular purpose, maybe for particular purpose, maybe 1 or 2 or 3. So, for all those purposes, whatever is the important objects, that has to be picked up and shown in our map, and planimetric information has to include those. Apart from the planimetric information, we must have the spot levels of sufficient number of points which will be spread all throughout the project area. Not only the spot heights of all throughout the project area, but also we have to pick up the spot heights of important elevations, depressions, there is change in slopes, grade, any important feature associated with height. So, spot heights should be well spread. Not only that, also the important locations where the elevation is suddenly high or top of the hill, something like that, some depressions. So, the deepest point of the depression, then if there is a change in slope, or there is slope or change in slope or slope, then there is a gradings and any other important feature associated with height. So, for all those points along with some normal points, we should have the spot heights well spread throughout the whole area, so that those spot heights, as I have already discussed in the class of contour, that spot heights are the required for drawing the contours, and we will be in need of lot of spot heights to develop the contours. So, we have to take care of that during detailing of maps, and we have to accordingly plot it in the map. Now, we have so many objects that has to be noted down in the map. Now, to actually represent the objects, we do make use of some standard symbols. So, standard symbols and lines will be used to represent the salient objects that will be available, that the present on the surface of the earth. So, we need to know really what is the particular symbol for particular object, or what is the particular way a line has to be drawn for a particular linear feature. Now, for all over the world, for each country they have their own standard list of symbols and lines which represents the particular cultural details of the area. Similar to that, India is also having its own set of symbols as well as linear representation, and the Survey of India provides that list. Now, so whenever we will go for mapping and we will go for planimetric positioning of objects or feature on the surface of the earth, that has to be represented through the list of symbols that has been given by the Survey of India. Now, here is a small list, a list I had just to have a feeling that if we want to represent temple, we have to use the symbol like this, and if we want to represent a mosque, we have to represent like this. And not only the symbol shape, but its color is also important. So, symbol along with the color which is shown here exactly, that has to be replicated in our presentation. So, similar to this, you can see here that the single line stream, that broken line with light blue color, non perennial, and if it is non perennial, then it is black color having the broken line. So, broken line and having will show that these are the streams, single line streams, and if the broken line is blue color, then we will understand that the stream is perennial, and if it is black, then it is non perennial. So, what I want to emphasize that the symbol is important, along with its color is also equally important. So, like that there are hundreds of symbols are there along with their color varying. So, we have to take care of the symbols as well as colors whenever we will go for mapping of planimetric positioning of objects in map. Now, after this we have to take into consideration the design of a map. So, whenever we will try to go for a map making, we first have to design it. To design the map, the most important thing we have to take is what is the objective of that map. So, our design will depend primarily on the objective, that means for which purpose we are making the map, we are preparing the map, and then we should see that the design satisfy the requirement of the users. That means it must convey the information which is required for the user to collect from that map, and all the necessary information should be available. So, to design we have to take into consideration these 2 points, and then in designing, in getting this thing, we can achieve by taking these 5 criteria, that means 6 criteria. That means the map should be having a very good clarity, that it must be in order, properly ordered, it must be balanced, it must have a contrast, unity and harmony. These are the 6 basic criteria which a map, if satisfies, then we should design keeping into mind these 6 criteria. Now, clarity, from the name itself you can understand that the map ultimately should be very much clear for the user to understand or to read, and sometimes we may find that we are in need to provide more information than really it can depict. In that case, we have to make use of some table, or we will be in need to give an inset design of some portion of the map which will be in larger scale. So, in that way we can increase the clarity as well as we can provide the more information. The map content should be in proper order, that means it should be user friendly, it must be balanced, that means there should not be some portion of the map should not be more prominent than others, and it should be well balanced, so that the user feel comfortable in making use of the all part of the map equally with equal each. Then we must use some contrasting information, like we may use different line weights, like for example in case of contours, every fifth contour we do make a bit more prominent. So that increases the clarity in contour reading, like we can change the size of the fonts or the nature of the fonts, and all these we will do to enhance clarity, order and balance. Then the unity, interrelationship between the background and color should be there, harmony, interrelation among the different elements in the map which we have discussed should be there. Now there are some guidelines actually in each country for the preparation of the topographic map. There are some guidelines, also Indian topographic map guidelines are there. If we follow those guidelines, then probably our design will be good. Then after designing, we should think of the how to lay our area in the map. Now for that we need to know the shape, size as well as orientation of the land, as well as shape, size and orientation of the paper, and then we have to correlate between all this to find out what will be the best way to place our map, our area in the presence in the middle of the map, and the area fits into the sheet, and the scale of the map should be as large as possible, and the presentation should be neat, and edges of the map coincide with the cardinal direction. So these are the criteria we should try to follow while we will try to lay the map out in the sheet. And then before or also during or after the preparation of the map, we need to look for some graphic elements to be present in the map, like we must have notes. So at the end of the preparation of the map, we maybe need to provide some prominent note or some important note to the user of the map, and that has to be given, and that is generally made near the prominent location, that means like legend box. Legend box is one of the prominent place where we can place the note. Then legends, actually symbols and the colors, all these provide some particular meaning, but really what is the meaning of the symbol, many times user do not remember. So there should be a legend box where we will provide the symbols or the lines along with their proper meaning, that is called legend box. That has to be present in the map, and that is to become after the map has been prepared. Bar scale, that means the most important thing in a map is the scale, that we have discussed in the last class, and in case of map it is better to have at least bar scales or graphical presentation of the scale. Already we have discussed in the last class, along with the representative fraction. North direction has to be noted down, and this north direction preferably should be true north. Then the map should also have the title block. Title block must contain the type of map, name of the property or project, location, scale, contour interval, horizontal and vertical reference system, etc. So these are the cartographic elements, especially legends, bar scales, north direction, title block, and also notes, which has to be present in the map. And finally we should take care about the drafting material, like the size and quality of the paper. So and also during the preparation as well as before preparation, we should keep it in mind that there may be a large sources of errors in the mapping, like there may be error in the data used, the scale what we are using that may not be appropriate one, so we have to take care of that. Grids, actually we do prepare grids before laying the planimetric position, so we should take care that the grids should be made highly accurately, and sometimes there may be errors in non-use of proper drafting material and software. So, before we start mapping, we should always ensure that we are making use of the proper software, drafting software, as well as proper material. And also there are some scope for mistakes in carrying out the mapping, that is the sometimes we may not be judicious enough to use appropriate scale. So, if our scale or contour interval is not appropriate, then there will be a lot of mistake, and there may be we may sometimes omit important notes, or the personnel who will prepare the map may not be adequately trained. So, these mistakes we should try to avoid, and we should avoid so that we can end up with a good map. With this, I like to conclude today's class, and in the next class I will like to discuss on computer softwares which may be useful for mapping purpose. So, mapping software I will like to discuss in the next class. Thank you.